Finish Line tonight. Is Asante Samuel Sr. just bitter that Tua cooked his son and the Chargers defense in week 1, or does he have a point that Tua has reached his ceiling? We'll talk about that. Also, does a week 17 win that'll give us our first 12-win season since 1990, our first second seed since 1992, and our first AFC East crown since 2008. Does a win this Sunday absolve the two of the Ravens' loss and kill all the narratives that the Dolphins are frauds? We'll talk about that and so much more. Smash the like button. Subscribe if you are new. Let's get into it, guys.
Touchdown! Got it! You have got to be kidding me. Jaylen Waddle has a Dolphin touchdown. And he will score! Deep field on the near side, man open. Touchdown! The run from Tua Tagovailoa. Touchdown! He's going deep. He's got it for a touchdown again. Touchdown!
Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan. Let's go!
All right, huddle up, huddle up. We're going to crank these engines up on one. All right? Wait, 80. Wait, set. Drivers, start your engines.
This is the Finish Line.
I coached a great offensive lineman in the past. Larry Little, Dwight Stevenson, Jim Langer, all Hall of Famers, and Richmond Webb belongs to that same group.
Here are your hosts, legendary Miami Dolphins left tackle Richmond Webb, Reason, and Mr. Ballgame.
What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason, and we welcome you back to another episode of the Finish Line. As always, I'm joined by the legendary Richmond Webb, the Triple OG Mr. Ballgame. Gentlemen, tough one to say the least. I've moved on from this loss. Obviously, no one out here has really heard your guys' thoughts and takes on it. What there really is to say other than how you guys feeling coming off that loss, when I know in reality, especially, you being a former coach, Ballgame, and you being a former player, Richmond, you got the mentality I have. There's no time to sit here and play woes me and dwell on the past. You got to flip the script right away. But I'll ask you guys anyways, for the sake of all the viewers, how are you guys feeling coming off that difficult loss and heading into a game where it's, hey, last week was for the 1 seed. This is almost just as important and just as big over the last 20 plus years of a game. How you guys feeling heading into this?
Go ahead, Mr. Ballgame.
Oh, look at this. Oh, snap.
Well, to be honest, to be honest with you, I want to apologize. I'm usually pretty good about staying composed and understanding the ins and outs of NFL football and behind the scenes of how things transpire, and being in touch with players' emotions. And as a coach, you always gotta keep your cool and make things make sense. But I was just extremely frustrated on Sunday because I saw things that are very uncharacteristic of this team, and we lost a very good player for the rest of the season behind some decisions that I just didn't think or in the best interest of the team moving forward. However, under the circumstances, teams lose games, man. I think, on any given Sunday, man, we went out there and I still don't believe that we played our best football. Obviously, Baltimore was just the more prepared team on Sunday, and unfortunately, sometimes it just comes down to just that: who's more prepared. I don't think they're better than us in any form and fashion. I don't think that they're better. I don't think they're physically better than us. I don't think they're talent-wise better than us. I just think that they had a better game plan that they executed, and we didn't stick to our game plan, and we went into, unfortunately, on defense playing, trying not to give up the big plays, and then they killed us with the simplest of things, right? All of the touchdowns that they scored were things that we've seen throughout the season that we've massively taken away from teams previous before. But when you're down and you're reeling and you got the momentum is completely deflated, gone away from you as a whole, players do uncharacteristic things that unfortunately we just didn't execute. So I'm hoping there are, and I look at the Tennessee game and I think there's always lessons in every loss, as much as they hurt, right? Because that was a pride one, I believe, because they had us on the rope last year and we was able to walk them down and come back and steal it from them. I think they had a concerted effort on their side at this point in time that once they got us down and they kept punching, they were just going to keep punching. And they wanted to see if we was going to punch back. And unfortunately, the narrative now is that, once you punch on us, we won't punch back and we'll just take what happens and then we'll move on to the next week. And to some point, you have to do that. But I don't want that to always be the thing that stuck with people. I think sometimes, teams just are a little more motivated to see you. And I think on Sunday, Baltimore was just a bit more motivated than we were. And unfortunately, the one seed seemed like something that we desired, but I don't think that they wanted it more. And I just think that, at any point now, the playoffs is really what matters the most. And I just want us to be as healthy as possible going into that. And maybe this is something the players thought the same, because I knew for myself, even sitting as a fan at home, that once Tyreek missed that touchdown, that would have put us up 14-7. That kind of took the energy out of the team. And once you lose momentum, people don't think it's that big of a deal unless you've actually been in high stake games. Once you lose it, it's really hard to get it back, especially if you're on the road, because you got to deal with all the other things that come into play, the crowd noise, and all of the butterflies and built up again. And if you are down at that point, it takes one hell of a massive energy shift, something great that you have to manifest and change yourself to get the things going back to your way. And we just didn't have that on Sunday, and that's unfortunate. But we still are 11-5. I had to remind myself after I got off Twitter. I had to refrain from Twitter and walk away from it for a bit because I was out there uncharacteristic. And to those of you that follow me and really take what I say sometimes as valuable information, I apologize. That's not who I am as a person. I don't like to be out here blasting and talking crazy, but so I was just extremely frustrated, and for once, it got the best of me, and I apologize for that. But at the end of the day, we are 11-5 with a chance to secure the second seed against the bully in the division. And to be honest, I think the game against the Bills matters more than the game against the Ravens. Right? They can, the one seed was fine, but we got to get this monkey off our back, and that's the monkey that Josh Allen is in charge of, and that's what I think matters more at this point. Being prepared and ready to take on the Bills and send them.
Okay, so my thing here is let's talk about this for a sec. All right, so I mean, this is kind of like a pretty decent segue into one of the things we want to discuss here. Does a win against the Buffalo Bill kill all the fraud talk, absolve them of the loss to the Ravens? And, I saw people earlier in the chat, everyone, the boogeyman, right? Everyone's afraid of the boogeyman right now. And my whole thing is, though, gentlemen here, all right, if you dive into it, right? 2 in his last 3 games, 1-2 record, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, a 106.9 passer rating. Remember, the whole narrative last year, gentlemen, heading into that game in December was, it's the snow. It's the snow. Tua won't be able to throw in the snow. It's going to be too cold. And Tua came out lights out and was clearly one of the reasons we did not lose that game. Am I the only one who? And we beat them at the Rock last year. What the hell are these people afraid of right now? Like, this is. I feel. Am I wrong in saying that? If this does kill all the narratives, and this would kill all the narratives, this is probably, obviously, injuries aside, but this team, especially offensively, they're much more potent than they were especially at home than they were even last year. And, you look at us rushing the ball at home, we're number 1 in the NFL. Throwing the ball at home, we're number 1 in the NFL. Our defense is lights out at home too. Other than that slip up against the Titans, our defense has been lights out over the last, 10 weeks at home. So, am I the only one sitting here saying, yo, listen, I understand the injuries and I get it. Before we went live here, boys, I said to you, I'd take Connor Williams over anyone. And the reason why is because, this is why we can get by with Kendall Lamb and Keon Smith. You can get by with bookend tackle replacements. The problem you get into with the interior is Tua as a quarterback and our offense. Tua, his maneuverability, right? How he likes to move through the pocket, his awareness. If he flushes out, it's usually up and out. It's never run around the long way, use my legs and just, go. It's up and out. Same thing when he throws, right? Up, reset, trigger, and fire, or up and back foot. Or it's just straight off the back foot while he's backing up. But he likes to move up to that middle of the pocket. That's why when Connor Williams was around, we were getting up 4, 6, 5, 7 pressures a game. Now we're giving up 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 pressures a game. They're basically almost tripled and doubled depending. So, what are you guys' thoughts on this? I mean, I get the injuries, but I still think we're talented enough where we can – I don't even think it's shocking the world. We can take care of business on Sunday. I think that's a realistic. Does this absolve? Will this take the sour taste out of your mouth that the Ravens game left in it? And will it kill these fraud narratives? Because Ballgame even said this is the bigger monkey than Lamar. Tua was 2-0 against Lamar. This is the big monkey. Go ahead, Ballgame.
Well, before Richmond goes, my thing is at the end of the day, you get what you give, right? And I think this is part of the humbling process of the season. We hung 70 on Broncos. So in the same sense that we were reveling and happy about the fact that we put 70 points up on another NFL team, this team came back and put 56 up on us. We got to be able to take it as well as be able to – if you're going to dish it, you got to be able to take it. And I just think across the board, the narrative, people are going to write their own narratives. But like I said, you got to handle your own business first. So we handle the division business. Everything else will write a story along the way as we keep taking wins and taking names. So I don't get into all that. I think this team is as talented as any team still left, any team that's ready and vying for the playoffs. I think that they're more concerned about us than a lot of us being concerned about them. We have explosiveness that no other team is able to field on the team at any point in time. And I just think when it comes down to it, we're the team to beat still. That 1 seed would have been great, but at the same time, everybody now at this point is dealing with injuries of some degree. So not going to use that as an excuse. We got to buckle up the chin scraps and just.
It's not an excuse. It's context. Not a lot of guys have 9 of their starters, and 7 of them are on all Pro Bowl trajectories for us this year, right? That's the thing.
Yeah, but they're not going to give us that. You know that. You and I.
No.
You and I look at it.
This is the reality of the situation.
Give us that.
And I agree with you, but you know what's crazy about that? If we lose this weekend and we're 1 and done, if we're 1 and done in the playoffs, guess what? McDaniel ain't going to go on the hot seat because McDaniel's going to go to everyone and say, listen, I had us vying for the number 2 seed and the AFC East crown in the last week, and look at all the injuries I was dealing with. Imagine if I didn't have imagine if you just gave me Chubb and X back and you gave me just Connor Williams, just those 3 players out of the 9 starters we're missing. You could sit there and say, if I had those 3, we're probably in way better shape. And that's what the Salah's been living off that, the injury thing. And, right. I mean, we know, right. Anyways, Richmond, what are your thoughts on the narrative? Because I forgot to add to Richmond, my whole thing with that narrative too about
your team down.
Yeah, exactly. Right. You only, right.
41% of your starters. Yeah.
Yeah. Only you have 13 of your 12 starters are healthy right now, and then you even got your backups really out. But anyways, Richmond, another thing I forgot to add to my soliloquy when I asked you guys the question. Another reason why, I would say, hey, yeah, we could pin this in as a narrative killer game. You know what it's going to be even if we win this game, Richmond. Okay, well, now they got to win a playoff game. Oh, yeah, you won the AFC East and you won 12 games for the first time since 1990. But you got to win a playoff game now. You know what I mean? That doesn't matter. So that's where I'm at with that. What do you think about this whole – would this at least take the sour taste out of your mouth for that Ravens loss with the win this week?
I think it will. Happy New Year, everyone that's listening in. I think it definitely will. I think the thing is, and I think Ballgame brought up a great point when he was, going in his beginning statement or whatever, and what he said about, we put up 70 points. I can remember in Twitter space, people was like, "Man, we should go for the record. We should go for the record." I'm like, I said, man, this can happen at any given time to any team, this and that, just the NFL. And then when the shit's on their foot, it doesn't feel so good. So, but I was expecting us to have a better showing than this, especially after we had lost to Tennessee a couple of weeks ago. I thought the team had regrouped and kind of knew what was at hand, whether it was for first place or not. Even if we lost that game, I thought we would have a better showing than that. But hats off to Baltimore. They came ready to play, and they carried on from – I had watched them play the week before when they beat the 49ers on the road, this and that, and they just continued. So, hats off to them. I'm going to give credit where credit is due. But I was listening to you as far as the narrative. Yeah, we have the injury, stuff like that, but you're exactly right. If we win, we beat Buffalo, the narrative will be either they got to win a playoff game or the Dolphins really didn't beat them. Josh Allen gave them the game. It's going to be some other kind. It never stops in Miami. And even if you beat Buffalo, you win a playoff game. Well, they got to go on this road this week, so they need to do this. If they don't do this, it's always the narrative always changes, and the narrative is typically always negative. That's coming from the media, and I don't understand that, but it's been that way a long time, and that's why I try to tell people don't listen to it, because for some reason, man, it's like no matter what we do, it's never enough. And just like you said, if we ran the table and won the Super Bowl, it would be another excuse after that. Yeah, they did it, but this happened. To say the Chiefs were out of it, they only had Kelsey. It's another narrative that's going to come up that it's like you can't please them. And I've just noticed it. I don't know what it is about the Dolphins, Miami or whatever, but some ways like everybody tries to find something narrative rather than saying, well, hey, at the end of the day, they got the job done. Very seldom will you hear somebody say so. I don't listen to a lot of this and that, but like I say, the injuries, I'm not going to lie, we got a lot of them and do concern me, but I still think we can win this game. I'm pretty sure we're going to have to make some adjustments in some areas with X being down. I don't think we need to go into the game plan the way we approached the first game up there, but I think this definitely is one game. Typically at home, we play much better. We'll have the home crowd, this and that. And the last thing is the Buffalo Bills. I mean, if you can't get for this game, if you can't be focused for this game, is something wrong with you, because this is just a natural rivalry. So, but as far as killing the narrative keeps changing. So it's almost impossible to kill it. It's almost like Ghostbusters or something. Don't die, just multiply. So that's my take on that.
And just announced, if people haven't seen it yet, we have just had 6 players named to the Pro Bowl officially. And Tua Tagovailoa is the starting quarterback for the Pro Bowl. Tyreek Hill, starting wide receiver for the Pro Bowl. Raheem Mostert and Alec Ingold are your starting running back and starting fullback for the Pro Bowl. There you go. And just, further to show people here, because they're gonna wonder, right? You're starting quarterbacks. Sorry. You're starting quarterbacks here. Tua Tagovailoa, backing him up, Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes, and on the other side, Brock Purdy's the starter, and then Dak Prescott and Stafford backing him up. But guess what? We ain't even gonna be there. We're gonna be busy prepping for a Super Bowl trip, baby. Right? We ain't even gonna be there. But shout out to all of our Pro Bowl, our 6 Pro Bowlers, and our 4 Pro Bowl starters. Shout out to each and every one of them, man.
Yes, that's awesome.
Love it, right? Love it, man. 6 Pro Bowlers. Huge. Man, I know some people's hearts hurt. You know, those 2 haters, their hearts hurt when they saw that one. I'll tell you that much.
Facts.
Oh, man. Oh no, he's starting over Lamar. You know, let's speaking of haters, I want to play this clip for you guys. Don't know if you had a chance to watch it. I'll play it for you and then we'll go over it. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on Asante Samuel Sr. and what he had to say here, ladies and gentlemen, and then we will go from there. So here is what Asante Samuel Sr. had to say today.
The 1, 2, 3 is my new name for Tua Tagovailoa. When the play isn't perfect and Tua needs to adjust or compensate for good coverage or something like that, the Dolphins become automatically a mediocre team, a very average team when Tua Tagovailoa has to create and try to be something that he's really not, right? And this year, listen to me, this year will be his best year ever. This will be the best year ever Tua Tagovailoa, right? He will never play to this level again because teams will get what they need to stop them after experiencing this year and all this explosive and a quick pass, right? He can prove me wrong. I love for everybody to prove me wrong when I'm a critic. But I'm standing on this. I'm standing on business. I think this is going to be his best year of his career ever. And yeah, he's pretty much hit the ceiling. And Mike McDaniel, he is solely responsible for Tua's success. I don't think it's another coach that can make Tua play to the level he has played at this year. Besides Mike McDaniel, there is no one else. Trust no one else. Mike McDaniel is doing a hell of a job with Tua Tagovailoa. We've seen him with a previous coach, and Mike built a great team, speed, talent, everything he needs to be successful. It's all up to Tua now. I had a debate with my brother about who fault is it, and I had to explain to him, man, it's not not Mike McDaniel's fault. Tua Tagovailoa got to step up, right? Now, in the future, the Miami Dolphins will have a big decision whether or not to keep Tua Tagovailoa on the team for years to come, right? Now, if they want to win the Super Bowl, if they want to get to the big game and win that Super Bowl, Tua Tagovailoa is not the guy. He's a nice guy. Everybody want him to succeed. I want him to succeed, but apple is an apple. A spade is a spade. And I don't see Tua Tagovailoa being that guy. And we hear about Tua, taking jiu-jitsu classes, and that's cool and all. But in my opinion, I think Tua needs to concentrate on flexibility and speed in off season because he is barely able to escape 300-pound plus defenders when they're chasing him around the field. When he got to make a play, it's very hard for him to escape if y'all not watching closely. You got to pay attention to those small things. And that's not good because the older you get in the NFL, the slower you get, the weaker you get. So that's not a good sign at this point.
Bro, like what does he think this guy is? That's not his game. I mean, that was, he's this guy. All I could think about this is while he's spewing this nonsense while he's got a Brady jersey hanging up with him. How was Brady when he had to go outside of the pocket and get off script? What do you think? Brady was just like lighting people up. Brady was the epitome of stick to the script and we'll be a dynasty. Let's start with you, Ballgame, because I mean that's a corner. Your thoughts? I mean, I want to ask you: does he have a point, or is he mad that J.C. Jackson got torched for 99. Michael Davis got torched for 90, right? His son, targeted 4 times, allowed 3 receptions for 36 yards and 2 touchdowns. One of those being a 30-yard catch by Tyreek. Everyone got torched, including his son, against the Chargers. Is this just a bitter, jealous old player, or where are we at here with Asante Samuel's little opinion there?
I give him a little grace because he's one of only a very small number of corners in the NFL's history that's had at least 50 interceptions.
Yeah.
Aside from that, I mean, he might want to just stick to just advising his son. Everybody don't deserve a podcast. You know what I'm saying? Unfortunately, they made it so that anybody can have one. And just because you got one, don't mean that you know what the hell you're talking about. I think across the board, when you take into consideration how young they are in this offense, you can't definitively go out here and say that the players topped out and that they've reached their ceiling, because there's layers to this offense that, hell, we don't even know exist yet. You know what I'm saying? I'm quite sure he's still learning. He's too young in his career to be topped out. You know what I mean? And I know without a shadow of a doubt, every time he steps on the field, every time he's out there engaged in the process of being the quarterback of this team, he's learning new things, learning more about himself. He's not in the age where he's topped out yet. He's not 27 or 28, where the regression starts to set in to some degree. He's still ascending. And for him to be out here saying that, there might be some haterade that he didn't drink or something, because you wouldn't jump out there on that ledge, you know what I'm saying, for no other reason other than you just got an issue with the player.
Bro,
And I
he's
don't even understand why
crucifying
you
him
even talk about
Ballgame
him
for
anyway.
being
Why don't
something
you talk
he's
about
not. He's crucifying for being something that he's not, that
Right.
he identifies himself. Well, that's not his game, but then you crucify him for it. What kind of sense does that make?
Yeah. Because you don't have anything else to hold. He don't have anything else to throw at him, so he just got to he's picking at straws, right? Just to have something to say. And Tua is an easy target. Let's be clear about that. He's a good guy that is not going to go back and forth and get into these back and forth with people, and he's not going to be, he ever going to be disrespectful unless you come at him that way. So Tua's an easy target, right? But in the same sense, he's a target that all of these people, just like him, Asante Samuel, he's going to have to go back and he's going to eat them words because it's out there now. And when Tua proves him wrong, just be man enough to come back and say you were wrong. That's all it is. Just be man enough to say you were wrong, because at this point right now, for you to say, after the dude's only been in the scheme for 2 years, first year, I don't even count because he was technically still not even 100%. I don't even think he was 60%, but he got out there and toughed it out. Second year, still trying to figure out his body. This year and last year, okay, that's 2 years in this scheme. Anybody with any common sense fully installed in the NFL scheme. And for your quarterback to fully be acclimated to it and to have all the nuances down, it takes 4 years for that. So we don't know where his ceiling at yet. He's not there. I'm not going to jump out of there and agree with him on that. That's stupid. And if he really knew what he was talking about, he wouldn't have said that dumb stuff. But like I said, everybody want to have a podcast and have people listening to him. So go ahead and keep going and dig the hole deeper, because you got to come back behind and feel yourself. You got to have to come back and fill it in at some point and say you were wrong, because the ceiling's not even he's nowhere near his ceiling yet.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
And someone asked me when I was on another show yesterday, someone asked me in the chat, what do you think about Tua, and like, why doesn't McDaniel, like, because I was talking about how, no one knows this offense better than Tua right now on terms. And like you said, he's still got room to grow, et cetera, et cetera. So does even our coach too. Right. But anyways, well, they're like, well, why doesn't Tua audible or check out? And I'm like, man, this guy's got checks, alerts, and audibles. I mean, we've seen them talk about publicly 3 different times where McDaniel said, okay, Tua, run whatever you want. And 2 of those 3 times were bombs for touchdowns to Tyreek, right? Exposing coverage matchups. So Tua knows how to run it. The thing with Tua is he's just so stick to the script. He's such a quarterback's coach where you tell him he will not go off script. He will not. He will try to stick to the script as much as possible. But what did you think about what he had to say there, Richmond?
Yeah. It's.
Yeah, I know, right?
I don't entertain.
Saying you're never gonna win a Super Bowl with them, and saying he's topped out in year 2 of an offense that he's gotten better every year in is crazy.
I don't entertain BS. I don't, and I love all former players, and you can have an opinion, but if you have an opinion on anything, hell, there's much going on in New England. Why you not chiming in about how to fix that situation? You way down here in South Florida, trying to fix the damn Dolphins, and you ain't never played for them. So I'm like, come on, man. Sometimes you just gotta, chill out. I know everybody trying to get stuff for clicks, like Ballgame said. A lot of people get podcasts and then they got all the answers and stuff. But if you can fix it, then tell us what we need to do. But it's hard for me to chime in on stuff like this because I'll be like, bro, really? I mean, I guess the way I look at it is, when you're a former player, you know how it is when you get unjust, undue criticism. And then for one of you to be a former player and come out and try to cut a guy's legs out, that's undue. And not only this season, I mean, Tua was doing this last year before he had concussion. So I'm something like, what are you talking about? And then you're going to say, this is the best he's ever going to be? And I'm like, you don't know this kid's work ethic or whatever. It's ooh. I had enough. Like Ballgame said, Twitter was pretty rough Sunday after the game, and I normally try to stay positive, but I got off because of some of the stuff people say. I'm like, are you watching the game? I understand you're upset about the game. Man, sometimes you got to just take a step back, and that's hard for a lot of people to do, but it's hard for me to entertain BS and then to try to come up with an answer for what it is. And sometimes you just got to call it what it is. And I don't know if you're a hater. I don't know what it is. It could be a little bit all of it. I don't know. I'm hoping he's just trying to get clicks and build his fan base or followers on, his podcast. He's trying to make paper. I ain't got no problem with nobody trying to make their paper, but don't put stuff that's really not true or unfair about somebody just to try to uplift yourself. I ain't never been a fan of that, and I'm gonna leave it at that. I just had to shake my head on that.
Yeah, but like Cat Williams said today on Club Shay Shay, man, he said you don't have to become a giant. You don't have to, if you are a giant, you don't have to remind people you're a giant. They're gonna know you're a giant, and you don't have to go through the process of tearing other people down to boost yourself up just for notoriety. Like, at the end of the day, him being a former player, to me, man, that's like rule number one, right? Mind your business, stick to your craft. You don't even play the game that he plays. So how are you as a cornerback, right? How you as a cornerback gonna tell this man that that's his ceiling as a quarterback? You never played this position. You ain't in his shoes. You don't know what's going on in Miami. So how are you going? How are you going to get out here and spew that kind of foolishness? Like that none of that makes any sense to me. But at the end of the day, that's what I say. Everybody want to have their podcast to say what they want to say. But then the problem is that people will run with this foolishness, but then not have the decency to come back and say, I was wrong. After the fact, after they've been proved wrong time and time again. Because I still ain't heard the people come back and apologize and say, oh, he won't make it 17 games.
You ain't gonna hear that either.
They said that too. They still ain't came back and apologized for saying that that he was paper thin.
He should retire. He should do this. He should do that.
But all of that. Yeah.
And now he's become the first quarterback selected to the Pro Bowl for the Dolphins since 1995, Richmond. How does that throw you back?
Damn.
And by the way, just so everyone knows, we have 12 alternates, eh? We have 12 Pro Bowl alternates. So we've got Chubb, Wilkins, Waddle, Holland, Ferguson, Austin Jackson, Durham Smythe, Xavier Howard, Braxton Berrios, Robert Hunt, Connor Williams, and Zach Sealer have all been named as Pro Bowl alternates as well. So we got 6 starters and 12 alternates.
If they had swapped Austin Jackson for Armstead, I wouldn't argue it.
Yeah. The notoriety, though, he'll never get it. He'll never get it because of the notoriety, right?
Is what.
Yeah, listen, hey, man. All right. Let's get to some positive news. We got a couple injuries we want to talk about here. Guys, Duke Riley got put on a little bit of a rotisserie. We talked about it earlier. Jerome Baker has been designated to return off injured reserve. His 21-day practice window opened today. He practiced today. Obviously, it's to be determined against the Bills. I expect a more so first playoff game as opposed to the Bills that quickly. How big of a how big of a, like, one of the things I'm worried about, boys, this week, Dalton Kincaid, right? I'm worried about Gabe Davis and Dalton Kincaid. Ramsey can put Stephon Diggs on an island, and Diggs has kind of been a ghost the last 4 weeks. But, how would getting Jerome Baker back either this week or next week, Ballgame, back to you again, how would that boost this defense, especially that linebacking core, and send Duke Riley back into more of a rotational role where you can't really scheme, you're not going to plan for him, and you don't really pick on him as much, obviously, right?
Well, I think what we didn't factor in with Jerome going down with the injury was how big he was in the communication game. Like in all the calls and all of the alignment and assignment stuff really came through Jerome, right? And it wasn't long. It was Jerome Baker that was actually making the calls and getting everybody situated and set up. And that's huge, because at the end of the day, he was the quarterback essentially for the defense, right? So if you imagine what we would look like on offense without Tua, that's kind of what you get, you know what I'm saying? And although Jerome to make all the plays that he should have made, if you got guys around you that are listening and know exactly where they're supposed to be and understand where they're supposed to be, and you making the right calls, that kind of aids in limiting the amount of cuts that you're going to have and the bleeding that you got to deal with if something goes wrong. And unfortunately, his presence was missed. Now, I don't really I owe Duke Riley an apology, because I'm telling you, bro, I was on one on Sunday. But at the end of the day, I think it comes from a place of coaching, because I just didn't understand how he, as an NFL player, couldn't handle the running back on the wheel route. And there's techniques that you do that can alleviate you getting beat the way you got beat on those wheel routes.
And it wasn't like it was Austin Eckler wasn't Austin Eckler or Jonathan Taylor coming out of the backfield, right? Like freaking Dustin Hill,
or Curtis Samuel that Jerome got cooked because a wide receiver coming out the backfield on a wheel route is a whole lot different than a running back. But that thing, that just frustrated me. So I apologize to Duke, you know what I'm saying? But it was a bad thing all around. I just think when you're thinking about alignment and assignment this late in the season, that's key across the board. And if Jerome can be back for us by the time the playoffs kick off, then that's going to be a huge boost. No matter who's out there, if your quarterback is out there, you have a sense of unity that a guy substituting for him that's not as adept or is not as confident, that kind of takes away from how confident you are about getting the job done. Unfortunately, corners don't factor in as much, because in theory, Ramsey's on his own island, right? But at the end of the day, they still a part of what we do. In terms of collectively, and that front seven has to be in unity, and we just haven't seen the same level of unity with Baker being gone. And I think it's hard to replace that when that guy is the guy that's been soaking up all this stuff and spending the late nights with Fangio and all that stuff. When all the other guys are going home, Jerome's still there. He's his quarterback, and Riley is doing the best he can, but there's levels to this thing at all these levels. And we just watched the best. I say we just watched the best middle linebacker, snipe Tua twice on Sunday. That Roquan Smith is something different, bro. So getting Jerome back will be a huge, because there's a big difference between Roquan Smith and Duke Riley. And somewhere maybe not right in the middle, but right below the middle is what Jerome is, and that's huge from where Riley is. So all that's a boost towards solidifying the defense and getting us back to playing some championship ball. So,
what do you think about Baker coming back, Richmond? How does that do from what you've seen from Duke Riley, and how does that do for after the Chubb injury? We need a little pick me up, right? We need some positive.
Yeah, I think Ballgame said it perfectly. Baker is the quarterback of that defense, and we've all seen how it's a huge drop-off when Tua is not the quarterback for the offense. So if that's his role, understanding, because a lot of times you can break the huddle or call or whatever, and if the offense shifts or whatever like that, the calls got to change, or your 2 interior tackles might have to slide, 1-1, 1-3. It just depends on the strength, this and that. So communication is definitely key, and the alignment of what you're trying to get your defense in order to execute and maximize, shutting down offense is huge. So when you don't have that guy, Duke Riley's probably making the calls, but his understanding is probably not at the level. And the other thing I look at is Baker had been doing that since the start of the season, so he's had a lot more reps. And like you say, he's put work in. If he spent time with Fangio, so you spend the mental side, but then you get to actually get the bulk of the reps in practice. You kind of see it, so when it happens, it's like, okay, I see it. You recognize it. No, switch. You line people up. So when Ballgame said that, it's like the quarterback. I'm like that. He's kind of like the Zach Thomas was on the defense, because Zach made the calls, this and that, and getting the linebackers, the D line, this and that. Normally the secondary, they kind of communicate between the safeties, kind of the corners and stuff. But that's a huge piece. So to get him back would definitely be huge. I think it would take us to another notch on our defense when we get him back. So that's good. We got an opportunity to get him back, and he practiced today. So that's definitely good news.
The other thing, too, is obviously with him coming back, we've now reached our 8-player limit for activation. So Isaiah Wynn, Eric Izakama, Salvin Ahmed, they're done for the season. They can't be activated. This also means, though, because of the Chubb injury, boys, and because we haven't signed Ingram to the practice squad. So we haven't signed him to the active roster. He's part of the practice squad still, right? You can actually use Baker to fill the spot without having to release or anyone, because you got the open spot. And guess what? The NFL teams can elevate players from the practice squad on a limited number of times during the playoffs. So you can use that roster spot from Chubb's injury for Baker, and then just elevate Ingram for every single game without having to activate him. Sign him. Yeah. Without having to sign him to the active roster. So there you go. There's that one less headache. Knight says, why do you think we didn't spy Lamar ball game?
Lamar didn't really kill us with his running, though.
Yeah.
And if you watch what they actually did, Baltimore put together a really good plan of protection. He killed us from the pocket. They had 6 to 7 guys blocking on most of the plays that they try to go vertically up the field, and they sometimes
they're basically in max protection,
right? They only focused on and they only focused on one side of the field. Rarely did you see them throwing at Ramsey, and then when they did, they focused on. As soon as X went out, all of his targets went to whoever was over on that side of the field, and they had 3 guys going out, and they max protected with 6 or 7, and they had the tight end leak out every now and then, and they had the other backside blocker or card, I think it was, leak out into the open areas of the zone or whatever coverage it was that we was running. So we didn't need to spy Lamar because they provided him with perfect protection, max protection on basically every pass play.
Yeah,
and they stuck to their ground game. Right, they ran the ball even when we did
at
stop
will.
it. They still kept running it so that they kept us honest. Yes, yeah. So he didn't kill us. Lamar didn't kill us at all with his running, which is what most people thought he was going to actually have to do. But yeah, they had a perfect game plan. They just said, you know what, we will wait you out. There were periods where I was counting, man. I was at 8,000, 7,000, 8,000, 9,000. And then there was a metric that came out too. We had no defender because we were only sending 4 and they were blocking 6 or 7. We had no person come other than that one sack that we got with Siler, come within 5 yards of him, bro. 5 yards. He had a 5-yard bubble around him to stand in there and just play. It basically became, that route didn't work, so hey, get open for me. And guys just got open, and he hit him in the spots.
You can't. They either couldn't hold their coverage long enough, or the coverage, or you can't expect guys to. But also, we were also having, he was making us pay on all the busted coverage plays, and then 3 one-handed catches. Isaiah likely had one, right?
That was on the blitz. Yeah, that was on a blitz too. We sent the pressure.
Yeah,
I mean, he got it off just as he was getting hit, and likely with the one hand catch. You don't expect that type of thing. But he pulled it in,
first half,
turned upfield, touchdown.
In the first half, he was like 5 for 6 against the blitz for like 140 yards, and it was like 2 touchdowns, I think, in the first half alone.
Yeah. He missed 3 passes all game, bro.
Yeah. Even the throw to Odell Beckham was an absolute dime, right? Like what could Kohu do on that play, right? Like
their
what
game plan was just better than ours, bro.
Right? Like what could well, and then look what they did defensively.
If he had to play that,
right? They saw us getting the ball out quick. What did they stop?
They put a cloud.
No more. They didn't send more than 5.
Put a cloud around Tyreek.
And they never sent more than 5.
And they put a cloud around them.
They stopped no more stunts or loops. No more stunts or loops.
Nope.
Right? They didn't simulate pressure at all. They basically dropped and stayed honest and responsible. And I mean,
and they put a cloud around Tyreek.
Yeah. And what were we doing?
Yeah, there was at least 4 to 5 people. Yeah.
Tua was forcing the deep throw, was forcing stuff instead of taking everything underneath, and McDaniel was calling stuff to force everything, deep digs, shots over the middle, instead of just taking the stuff underneath, right? And they talked about that after the game, right? Of how Tua needed to do a better job of. Tua said it, and we all said it. Tua needed to take. That's the problem, right? I talked about this, and I've talked about it multiple times this week alone. Tua doesn't choke. The problem with Tua becomes, you saw in the Bengals game last year with the drop from Edmonds and such, he feels the need, I've got all this talent around me. I've got to force the play instead of letting the game organically come to you. Take what's underneath, draw the defenders up, then bang, hit them over the top, right? Like just take what they give you, and then when they're playing you that tight and that honest and you're that injured, take what they're giving you, let the game come to you, and dictate the game flow by letting the game come to you. But he's like, I got to force it. I got to make something happen right now. We need quick points. We're like, boys, why are we rushing to the line on that first interception instead of letting the time come down to the 2-minute warning? What the hell's the rush, right? Tua ends up staring down the receiver. Roquan watches the eyes and undercuts it because Tua, one of his biggest strengths is how good of a pre-snap processor he is. And you basically rushed him to the line and you rushed the play. So he didn't ID Smythe in the coverage that the seam was going to be there, when previously when he had times to do his order of operations pre-snap, he kept IDing Smythe was going to be there. Hit him chunk yard. But then you rush him.
Because he was wide open.
Wide open, bro.
Yeah,
trying to save a timeout or something, I'm sure.
Why though? What Richmond?
I don't.
2 minutes. 2 minutes left. We look like we're trying to score. I know, but it looked like we're trying to score with a minute and a half left, so we could turn around and say, "Okay, we scored. Here's the ball before half. When you get it again after half." Like, what the fuck's the rush? I like, you're not trying to leave any time on the clock. And I get what you're saying with the timeouts, but you're not trying to leave any, and you're at midfield. What are we doing?
But you know what? I think you actually you brought up a good point. I think the way our offense is, a lot of times we score so quick and so fast that when that doesn't happen, sometimes mentally, I think you could think that, we got to score, rather than just saying, hey, let's run the offense, let's take some time off the clock, keep our defense fresh, because it's good to score fast, but at the same time, when you score fast, your defense got to go back out there, and if they're having to play, because I know against the Ravens, I think it was a couple of them, it was like 14, 15 play drives. So you want to slow it down and give your defense sometime a chance. But if your mentality where normally you throw a pass, somebody has a tackle, and the type of speed this team has, you got, Achan, you got Waddle, you got Tyreek. It's so many guys, Moser, you got so many guys that got miss a tackle, it's 30, 40 yards easy. I think that's something that the mentality is going to have to change. Like you said, even with Tua trying to force stuff, sometimes when you go make those adjustments at halftime, say, hey, they taking that away, so we're going to have to, shorten it, come underneath, this and that, and give what the defense takes you. It might take longer to score, but you still being effective. And I think eventually that's going to change. But that's the only thing, because people was like, yeah, what at the time? And I agree, it was no need to rush because we were right there. But that's the only thing I could kind of possibly think of. I said maybe trying to save a timeout, rush get it in because it was right before the 2 minute. And I think it was either you or Neil had tweeted said, no, actually they should have, said it was 2 minute warning, but they didn't. But that's the only thing I could come up with. But yeah, you're right. I think that's one of the faults that we have to correct offensively is you're not going to score quick every time. Take it when it comes, but if not, if you got to slow it down to move it, use your short passing game. Go ahead, Ballgame.
Yeah. The problem I had with it all was just the fact that he was pressing, right? And when you pressing like that, you go away from the natural things that you do when you're not pressing. And on that play in particular that he threw the ball with Roquan, man, you could tell right out the gate he was rushing. He never even looked anywhere else other than where he was throwing. And Roquan just followed his eyes right there to the ball.
Yeah, it was easy.
And those are things that, you made it too easy for him. The guy's already good at what he does, and then you just made it even easier for him by leading him right the way you was going. Those are things that he'll learn, though. All right, this is the nuances, right? Because you got to think about it, right? I know he's going to be up for a contract, but he's still a young kid playing this game, right? He's not a savvy vet yet. So these are things that these are learning things that he's going to have to go through, and we got to go through with it. And these are the growing pains to see the excellence that who he's going to be. And like I said, that's why I said there's no ceiling yet, because he's still learning, he's still growing. So it's just unfortunate that.
And you hope that these kind of outcomes are gonna. You hope these kind of outcomes are gonna change that habit of forcing and just taking what they give you, right? Anyways, sorry, the tip ball game. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah. The same thing, right? Where you pressing, and instead of making the read, he went 1, 2, saw Tyreek, and now he's stuck there. If he'd have just went 3, he'd have caught Smythe in the seam. He'd have been running for God knows how many, and then we would have been different. But he was sold on getting the ball fast down the field, and I've seen young quarterbacks make that mistake all the time. So I didn't want to kill him for it. I just said, no. You should, if you can have, because if you ask him, he'd probably tell you if I could have one play back, it would have been the one over the middle that got tipped, right? The one who Smith made an amazing play. I don't want to take anything away from the brilliance that he played, because that boy locks down that middle. Him and Patrick Queen together are a problem, and you got to figure out different ways.
Patrick Queen's the one that tipped that ball.
Yeah. So.
All right. So speaking on one more positive thing before we get into some Bills talk here, Mike McDaniel talking about Jaylen Waddle said we just got done with a walkthrough which he participated in. We'll take it step by step. If all signs are a go, then we'll get some practice reps and we'll give him a try and see how he responds to that. Your guys' thoughts on Jaylen Waddle? It's obviously a high ankle sprain. Are you guys pretty much in agreement with me? Just wait to the playoffs. Don't risk him in this game when we're going to need him. Where are you guys at with Jaylen Waddle and dealing with a high ankle sprain, especially with the cutting and the speed that he relies on? What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think we knew what in Austin Jackson's offensive line that he had that high ankle sprain. A high ankle sprain is one of the toughest injuries because you just tweak it a little bit, it wakes right back up. But like you say, with the type of cutting, running motion, stopping, starting, and being a receiver, playing the skill position, that's definitely tough. And normally straight ahead, you can kind of get away with it. But when you got to plant and put pressure on it, this and that to change directions and stuff like that, that can be really, really tough. So I know we're going to definitely need him for the playoffs, this and that. If all possible, we get some of the younger guys to step up and give him an opportunity to rest it. That's what I would do. Yeah, a high ankle sprain is really, really tough. And even for the playoffs, that'll be kind of quick comeback, just depending on severity or so. Yeah, if we can rest him, I say rest him, but unless he's just feeling amazingly, really, really good. But I say rest him because normally a high ankle sprain just takes time.
Yeah, I definitely sit him at this point. He doesn't have anything to prove. We got bigger goals ahead of us, so win or lose, I'd rather have him for the playoffs than worrying about Buffalo. I think we have enough healthy weapons on offense that we can still get the job done against them and not have to worry about losing him for even longer. So, yeah, I definitely sit him. I wouldn't even question it. I wouldn't even give him an option. I wouldn't even give him the option, right? I just tell him right out the gate, no, you're done. You're done until week 1 of with the wild card round. So,
Yeah,
continue
protect
your
him from
therapy.
himself. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? I was just thinking too. Typically, when he's out, teams normally like Ballgame just said Baltimore put a cloud around Tyreek. I'm not saying we can't get the ball to him, but this is an opportunity because I would think most people would say, okay, if Waddle's out, they're gonna favor Tyreek heavily, and this is an opportunity for some of the other receivers to really step up and maybe use some time as a disguise or bait, and then hit some of these other guys and let them make plays. And I'll scratch it to the head and say, hey, they're not just going all the time. And they're not trying to force the ball to them. We've got to actually shut this offense down. They're not just going to that. And I think once they do that, I think that would even open it up for Tyreek. I think most times, and just going back to Baltimore, like Ballgame said, they put a cloud, and then like Tua, if he's trying to force it, the deep force is not who's going to force it to. It's going to be Tyreek. So if we can use some other weapons that we have to kind of spread the ball around to kind of shake up, I think that would be a good thing too. I ain't think about that too. We were just talking about that.
So, gentlemen, we talked earlier about the Buffalo Bills. I want to get your thoughts on the game coming up this weekend. Your predictions. I mean, the Ravens, they announced basically that Lamar Jackson won't play versus Steelers. They announced a bunch of starters are going to be out. Tyler Huntley will start. If the Dolphins win on Sunday, they would not only be the second seed and play host. I mean, there's a chance where if Pittsburgh wins at Baltimore and the Jags beat the Titans, the Miami Dolphins take care of business, gentlemen. There's a scenario where the Bills might not even make the playoffs, and we've got the Steelers coming to town and listen, I don't want the Steelers because they're the easy game. I want the Steelers because I want the revenge for 2016 and what they did to Matt Moore and that team, right? Yeah. So I want that revenge. What are your guys' thoughts on this Buffalo game? What are your guys' thoughts on these playoff scenarios? What are you guys thinking going in this game, and what's your prediction, your score prediction?
For me, it's a rivalry game. I think Buffalo would like no more than to come in and to beat us at home to win the division. So I'm expecting their best effort from them. But at the same time, I'm thinking our guys wake up, and at the same time, I think you can look back, not at this year's game, but a couple last year, in the playoffs, and say, hey, really, we should have beat them in that playoff game, and we let them get away. So I think both clubs understand the magnitude of the game, and expecting both teams come out and play their best. And as far as a score prediction, I think it's going to be pretty close. I'm going to go Dolphins 24, Buffalo 17, maybe 20, 24, 20. I think it's going to be a close game. I think we can pull it out, and it will be no better than to beat them at home, win the division, have a celebration here, and then get ready for the playoffs. I love your scenarios as far as knocking them out, and that would even be sweeter. Yeah. And then having to play somebody like Pittsburgh, that would be a late Christmas present. Yeah, an early birthday present for me. So that would be good.
No, you know what it would be? You know what it would be? I'll tell you what it would be. The perfect way to start the new year. That's what it would be.
Hello. 24 in the house.
The report I got is that they were trying to be cute on Sunday against the Patriots, and Josh got a neck issue that he's dealing
Yeah,
with.
he's got a neck issue.
So he kind of banged up too. He left. Yeah, he got something. So they coming in. They're coming in not 100% as well. I think with the stakes on the line, I still like our chances. I think the game that we played against them earlier in the year was a fluke. In regards to just not us being mentally prepared to go up there and deal with all of the stuff that came along with that game, and they got away from us just much like this Ravens game. I don't think that happens twice. I don't think that happens in the division twice for us against them. I think we understand exactly what the importance on this game is. I think it's going to be an early start for us in terms of offensive explosion, and we're going to get out on them, and then the defense is going to carry us for the rest of it, and they're going to be playing from behind. They'll make some plays, but ultimately, I think it'll be a 31, probably 31-20, 31-20, 20-24 game somewhere in there, and we'll win and secure the number 2 seed and be done with the whole process. And then the other chips may fall as they may. It doesn't matter. We'll just prepare for whoever that number 7 seed is coming in to see us. But I do believe that everything's been kind of lining itself up. At the end of the day, man, the story could have probably been written better, but this is the one that we've been dealt. And I just think when you factor it all in, you got to handle your in-house business before you can worry about chasing down boogeymen elsewhere. And we got to go ahead and punch Buffalo in the face, send them packing, and then everything else will fall in the way it's supposed to. But that's objective number 1. Win the division and move on from there. And I believe they won't miss this opportunity. I think most should be back, sit Waddle on the shelf, let Said keep doing what he's doing, get him more actively involved because he's proven that he's a sure-handed receiver now at this point. He's not dropping any passes, not short-arming anything. He's out there blocking his ass off, so reward the guy and make them respect him, right? Their secondary is banged up. They haven't been that great against the run as well. They're going to try to get Cook going, but we got to be solidified up front. We can stop Cook. That limits Josh's play action ability, and I think Ramsey will eliminate Diggs and Gabe Davis and Kincaid are the 2 that we have to worry about. And I think Fangio, I still believe in him. I believe he'll come up with something to be able to stop those 2 as well. It's all about execution at this point, this late in the season, because they can dial up the best plays, they can call the best defenses, but if guys don't execute, then that's what kills you. So everybody's got to know what they're responsible for, and just go out there and play fast. Play fast and smart, and then Miami's the better team. I don't care what anybody says. They got Josh Allen and Diggs. Everything else doesn't really match up to what we have. So we got to go out and prove it that we're the better team, and I believe they will. So.
And I also wanted to add prayers up to Tyreek and his family for that fire. That's craziness. So hope everything's good there. Speaking of this game, I already made my prediction after we, on the Sunday night show after the Ravens lost. I already made my prediction. I said we're going to win 23-21 off of Jason Sanders' last-minute field goal. We're going to be down 21-20. Jason Sanders is going to come in, ice in his veins, and he's going to steal it. And that's exactly – I'm telling you, it goes down like that, baby. Count me in. So, hey, whatever. Listen, never thought I'd be saying that, but here we are.
You want the theatrics, huh?
It just seems like I don't know if we're going to score 30 points. It seems like it's a division rivalry and so much on the line. It feels like this is going to be a super tight game and that points are going to be difficult to come through at times. That's what I'm expecting. Now, I could be totally wrong, So, and I hope for the sake of entertainment, I'm wrong and we watch them blow them out 56-7 and it's not even close. But, listen, again, I go back to this.
That's what they deserve for what they did to us. Yeah.
You look at 2 overs last 3 games, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, a 106.9 rating. Should be 2-1 if Tyreek, Boyer, or Sherfield did their jobs in December last year. I think this, since last year under McDaniel, I think this is a different team. I think that loss earlier this year was a fluke in terms of how high we were coming off that Denver loss. Even our quarterback said people needed to be humbled in that room. So listen, I there's no way they're blowing us out. First of all, there's no way we're getting blown out twice in a row. This team hasn't even lost 2 in a row this season yet. They're not getting blown out twice in a row, and they're not getting blown out at home on top of that. And this team is pissed off, and this team realizes what every time this team has dropped the ball, they've responded this year. And they just realized they dropped the biggest ball. Really, the Titans game is the one that haunts us, but they just dropped that number 1 seed ball, and I think they're going to come back, and I don't think this team's going to drop the number 2 seed ball. They dropped the number 1, they realize it, and I don't think they're going to let the 2 seed in the AFC East slip out of their hands. So I'll be live tomorrow night, guys, 5 o'clock with Neil Driscoll for an episode of Fin Too Deep. Then live on Friday to preview the game. Then we'll be live reacting on Sunday to the game, and then right after the night game, Dolphins After Dark, baby. We are back at it like a Craftmatic. And then on Monday, I will be live with Omar Kelly to wrap up this season and get ready for the playoffs. So check it out. Got a lot of good content coming your way. Smash the like button, subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you all in the next one. Fins up, baby.